what I'm sitting with today is I'm working my way through the feeling of shame. So I don't know that I necessarily feel shamed in this moment, but it's kind of a collective theme that's been coming through for me. And I just think that it is a really crucial part in me being able to get further down the line and with what I want to do. Because the thing about it is that people love to shame people. It's how they keep the status quo, it's how they keep people in place, and it's how they try to control situations. So I don't think it's anyone's fault that they try to shame people. I think sometimes it can be malicious, but I think it's again just the society that we grew up in, so it has to be taken less personally. Now, if you don't know me, hi, my name is Kat, and I quit my corporate job approximately 1 year ago so that way I could find things that actually fulfill me and live a more authentic lifestyle. So in doing so, that's kind of when I started exploring emotions, because I realized that my mental state was awful, quite literally awful. And I do think that corporate life, the corporate company that I was at, was a part of that. And I do think that there was a lot of shaming that happened at that company, not again on purpose, but I think it's just the natural tendency of human beings in society, and it's the greatest way to control people. So I think that was such an issue for me because it pointed out and it reflected back to me how little I knew about myself. I didn't have a true sense of self in order to have those comments and those things roll off my shoulder. It would be something that I would internalize. Well, I would intellectualize while internalizing, because at the end of the day, my logic side knew, okay, I can look at this person and be like, the reason that they're shaming me is so that way it's because they feel insecure. I wasn't even taking it back to they're trying to shrink me. It was just they're insecure. And that's where I would leave it. And I wasn't fully processing the emotion. And I think that's another thing that we weren't really taught growing up, is that even if you understand why someone might be doing something, that doesn't mean that it didn't emotionally affect you. That doesn't mean that you don't have to go sit with yourself and either laugh about it, cry about it. I don't know what everyone's issue is, or like what emotion they struggle to feel, but mine was always sadness, mine was always crying. And so I think about some of the things that have either been said to me or I've heard, and I'm like, you know what, you probably should have cried about that one. That was actually really fucking mean. So it's okay to be sad about it, and it's okay to get that out, and until you do, you're always going to hold on to that. So why would you keep holding that within you? Go sit, go think, go process. And I think that is part of what I'm really understanding about emotions recently. And I do think that's very helpful in understanding how to get rid of a lot of shame that's been put onto me. And I think, again, shame is such a common one that until you figure out how to get rid of shame, you will feel small, because you're constantly afraid of what other people are thinking about you. And when you're constantly afraid of what people are thinking about you, you can't be yourself. You can't be authentic. And if you're not authentic, you're not going to be drawing in the right people. And if you're not drawing in the right people, you can't form a community that's going to help you expand. Like, it's all about, the more you nurture the self, the more that you can do for quite literally everyone, for the greater good of society. If you are able to have a great emotional state, then everything trickles, it overflows. And so I think the way that I used to handle shame was not good. Not good. And I think it led to a lot of external problems. I think shame was part of the reason that I used to drink. And it was kind of a way for me to forget about a lot of things, or at least be able to be like, well, if the actions that I'm doing now are when I'm drunk, then like, sorry, I didn't know I was doing them when I was drunk, and then I can just apologize for them later. But I didn't really feel shame in the moment, at least. I don't know. This is another thing that I'm working through, is like, why did I actually drink? And I do think it's associated with shame. I just don't know how. That's what I'm still working through, because it doesn't fully make sense to me yet. the cycle that I go through when I think about drinking and how that is reflected from shame. Because I do truly believe that drinking is a way to access your shadows, and it's a way to understand, it's a mirror for you in where you need to work on. So that's why I actually don't know that I disagree with drinking. I think drinking is still fine. I do think you should understand how to do it in moderation, but I do think it reflects how, like, the emotion that you feel. Because I will say, I've definitely drank out of anxiety. I know that. And I do think I've drank out of shame. I just haven't fully collected my thoughts on the shame part of it. But I digress. What I'm trying to understand now is, how can I look at a situation and be like, all right, this person made this comment towards me and it made me feel uncomfortable. It made me feel uncomfortable either because it's so far from myself and they have an outdated version of me, or because, again, that actually is who I am and they just don't like this new version of me. There's two different ways that it's kind of coming out. And I think I'm in a much better place now that I have a better sense of self, in order to be able to recognize when this is something that's being reflected back to me and when this is something that needs to roll off the shoulder. And being able to take the time to actually think about these situations, or feel through these situations more so, is actually what is the most important thing. It's understanding that I am supposed to feel, and then once I've felt sad or angry or embarrassed, whatever the emotion that comes with what that person said, that's when I can go and intellectualize. I don't even know if I need to intellectualize. Maybe that's the whole point, is you actually don't need to intellectualize every single thing that happens. And this is what it's like to work through your thoughts. Because sometimes you say things and you're like, you know what? I don't know if that's it. I'm not sure that that's the one. I don't know that that's the idea that I actually believe. Is it a thought that I'm willing to explore? Yes. Is it the thought that's going to stick? Maybe not. Because at the end of the day, I could sit there and I could intellectualize why this person was doing it to me. But I think it would actually be more productive for me to intellectualize, how do I want to handle this situation further? Because it doesn't necessarily matter why they're doing what they're doing, but it does matter how I'm going to handle the situation in the future. Because if I can understand that there's a problem and I don't feel good in this situation, I need to go say, hey, do you have a problem? Is there an issue here? If so, can you please tell me the issue? Because otherwise we can't work through it. And it's the concept also of not reading other people's minds. I think that is an issue that I have, and I think it's an issue that I have in a lot of relationships, because it's assuming that I know what's going to happen, when in reality, they could be focused on something completely different that I did wrong. So I think that's another thing that I'm working on. And I think that kind of ties into shame, because assumption about why someone is shaming you, like, I always talk about getting to the root. The only way that you're going to get to the root is if you actually have a conversation. So I think that is another thing that I'm working on right now, is like, if someone shames me, it's the concept of feeling what I need to feel about it. Once I'm out of an emotional state, how do I now want to handle this situation and get back on track with this person? Or is there no track to get back on? Is this where we kind of just call it quits? We just like let it be. It's not that you have to wish malice for the person, but it's just kind of like, neither of our energy needs to go towards this. And then you have a happy, nice life. And I think it's really hard to understand how to actually solve a lot of these problems, because I don't think that many of us have relationships where we consistently talk about the relationship and actually work to co-create friendships or relationships or family ships, whatever you want to call it, work relationships. I don't think that we have a healthy enough mindset in the way that we approach relationships to actually talk about the relationship. We just do a lot of assuming, and I think that's kind of what this video keeps coming back to is assuming in relationships. I think that actually might be the worst thing that we're doing for ourselves. And like, if we can get to the point where we are comfortable enough with ourselves to be able to actually have these conversations about where is this relationship at, that's when we will actually have way better, healthier, happier relationships, because you'll actually be able to talk about the issues because you're not tiptoeing around. And I think it's one of those things where it's really, really hard. And I had this quote that I saw the other day, and it was something along the lines of, is this problem actually complex? Or is it actually very straightforward, but it just takes a lot of courage to do the straightforward thing? And I think about that a lot because I'm like, a lot of this is not complicated. You are just not actually doing the straightforward thing of asking and talking to the person. And it's because you don't necessarily always feel like you have the tools to do it, because in the past you haven't shown that you know how to correctly do this. But also, the problem doesn't get better if you just keep waiting and waiting and waiting. It's trial and error, do and review. And until that gets stuck in your head, the problem is always going to be the problem. But I think all of this goes to say is shame is really big in society. And it's a way that we control others. And as soon as we become more okay with ourselves, we don't feel the need to control others. We feel the need to collaborate with others. And I think true collaboration is what will actually progress society and what will make us all a lot happier. We want to co-create. We don't want to control. And until we understand that concept, there is going to be a lot of shame. So, work on yourself, work on your emotions, and work on feeling your emotions. As soon as you understand how you feel and you feel the emotion, that's when you can start to intellectualize and decide what is happening next. We don't need to dig into the minds of others. We don't need to assume. We don't need to ruminate. We just need to have solutions for how to fix problems by communicating with each other. And that's kind of what I've been thinking about today. That's my theme when I'm sitting with. I don't know. If any of this resonates with you, please let me know in the comments below. Go ahead and like the video and subscribe, because I think I'm going to do more style videos like this where I'm just kind of talking through my ideas and my thoughts about how I'm working through different emotions and different dynamics within society, within my life, you know? Anyways, I hope you have a great day. Okay, love you, bye. Mwah.